very guttural scream, and I know that scream. I've wanted to scream that scream, and it was very gratifying and cathartic to have that represented in film. One other just technical thing, there's a sequence with a voiceover and an action sequence where they were tied together, and I wish they hadn't been. Nearer to the end of the film, I wish that the voiceover had been on its own, because there's a lot of really lovely sentiments in there that I had to actually go back and rewatch them again, because it was so lovely, and words that I had wished had been told to me.
Right.
So for me, that was just kind of my own nitpickiness around that particular sequence towards the end of the film. But all in all, Jim, what are you giving your rating for it?
Well, I think it has to be 4.5 stars. I also want to say that there was a great message about allyship and the importance of allyship that I really admired.
Yes, I agree. I am also giving it 4.5 stars. Make your plans to see this one in theaters. Don't wait to see it on streaming. There's going to be a different feel to it when you get that surround sound.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening and or watching today. Up next on WCPT 820 is Choose Views with Richard Chu. On AM 950 Radio, it's the Matt McNeil Show. Stay tuned after that for Native Roots Radio. And then at 10 p.m. Central, Step into the Unknown with Greg Bakken on Ghost Box Radio. Top 15 podcast for ghost hunters in the United States. You can stream our show everywhere you get your podcasts or at youtube.com/@thegailyshow. And until tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.
What's on your to-do list? Check your mail? Get groceries? How about getting your annual vaccines? We can help you check that off.
You've got this.
Yes, you do. Because we've got you. With local vaccine events and access to transportation, protecting yourself and your loved ones is not a chore anymore.
You've got this.
A message from the Aging and Disability Vaccination Collaborative, powered by U.S. Aging. Funded by the U.S. Administration for Community Living through a grant to U.S. Aging. Learn more at yougotthis.usaging.org.
I'm a pretty great multitasker. I can wash dishes and do laundry. I can roller skate while walking my dog. I can even order lunch while doing my homework. But I can't use my phone while driving. A distracted driver is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. So when it comes to driving, please, don't be a multitasker.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
This is WCPT 820, where you can hear The Stephanie Miller Show every weekday, 8 to 11 a.m., because facts matter.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. The U.S. has once again vetoed a UN Security Council resolution that had demanded an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages. The U.S. says it does not go far enough in condemning the Palestinian militant group Hamas. Meanwhile, Pakistan's defense minister says his nation's nuclear program will be made available to Saudi Arabia if needed under the country's new defense pact. The two countries signed a defense deal on Wednesday, declaring that an attack on one nation would be an attack on both. AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports Ukraine aims to expand its weapons industry to deter Russia and help allies.
With little chance of NATO membership for Ukraine, the country's Western allies have bought into an alternate strategy for helping it repel Russia. That's investing billions in Ukraine's weapons industry so it can better defend itself. If the strategy works as planned, the industry will eventually help equip US and European armies with cutting-edge drones and other military technology. Europeans have been taking the threat from Russia more seriously since the second Trump administration began signalling that NATO members shouldn't be overly reliant on the US to defend them. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One while returning from Great Britain yesterday, President Trump said federal regulators should consider revoking broadcast licenses for networks that, quote, give me only bad publicity. ABC suspended late-night host Jimmy Kimmel following his comments about Charlie Kirk's assassination. On Capitol Hill, Senator Richard Blumenthal says that the networks should be fighting back against censorship harder.
This censorship of Kimmel flies in the face of First Amendment free expression, and the networks ought to be standing strong in favor.
This is AP News. The biggest international clash in golf between the U.S. and Europe is 1 week away. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports.
This year's Ryder Cup might be the most anticipated one of them all. The Americans are desperate to win back the 17-inch Gold Cup from Europe. They'll be on home soil at Bethpage Black on Long Island in New York. The public course has a reputation of having the loudest and at times most obnoxious gallery in golf. Add to that 2 teams competing for flags, and it's a recipe for a wild week. Justin Thomas believes it will be the biggest golf event ever. Justin Rose says Europe is anticipating a rude welcome and is up for the challenge. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
And Clayton Kershaw says he will retire at the end of the season, having spent his entire 18-year career with the Los Angeles Dodgers. More on this and other stories at apnews.com. I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, look for gradually increasing cloud cover. Can't rule out a slight chance for a late day shower with high temperatures in the upper 80s. Then for tonight, scattered showers and storms becoming more likely, a low of 66. We'll be dodging some scattered showers and storms both Saturday and into your Sunday. Saturday, lower 80s for high temperatures and upper 70s on Sunday. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, 70 degrees.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from IQ Bar. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at eatiqbar.com/policy/terms of service.
Most protein bars are packed with sugar, carbs, and unpronounceable ingredients. There's a much better option. I'm Will, and I crafted IQ Bar plant protein bars with clean, functional, delicious ingredients to empower doers like you with superior brain and body fuel.
Now you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping when you text IQ Bar to 64,000. That's IQ Bar to 64,000.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Friday morning, progressives. Yeah, we made it. Chins up, shoulders back. It's time to fight, guys. It's time to fight with all that's going on. Welcome to the September 19th, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, Heartland Signal, and YouTube. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. And follow me on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, and Substack. That's right. That's how we do it here. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, because that's where you can get Choose Views, feature interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, and Out Chicago, and all of our other shows and interviews. Yes. So what you got to do is make your way over to heartlandsignal.com, because that's where all the other cool stuff is. So we thought we'd wake you up this morning with a little extra music to keep you going. So there. Guys, it's Friday, and there's lots of good stuff coming today. Obviously, over at heartlandsignal.com, we've got some great interviews and posted clips. Tammy Baldwin talking with CDC, clip that we played of Dr. Deborah Oury, who just breaks down what's happening with measles. And J.D. Vance kind of trying to threaten Gretchen Whitmer about they'd be happy to send in the National Guard to Detroit. Once again, these boys and a couple girls, but mostly boys, as part of this regime, sticking their chest out like they're tough and Brody, but they're really not. They are pretty feckless, in my opinion. But we'll get into that. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. TruBlu.com to check out our clips and all our other great posts that we have over there. Now, today's show, it's Friday, so that means that we will have our good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics podcast riding with us this morning in studio. Looking forward to chatting with Karen. And author Kevin Schultz will be with us in the 7:30 hour. If everybody remembers, he's the author of the book, Everyone Hates White Liberals, Including White Liberals. So he'll be with us at 7:30. Looking forward to chatting with him and just bringing you some good information that he'll be talking about some historical things that we should all be plugging into. But right now, check this out, progressives.
Well, this is a major moment in American history. This is a crossing of the Rubicon. And I think everybody should take this very, very seriously. For ABC to capitulate preemptively is handing power to the president he does not have. The proper course is to tell the SEC, we'll see you in court if you take anybody's license. We are not going to be bullied or intimidated. Any media organization in the world stands up to government threats. They don't roll over and show their tummy. That's not why you have a license in the first place. You have a license in the first place to help exercise the First Amendment, not to be a part of crushing it. ABC should be ashamed. The leadership of Disney should immediately reverse this. But Americans around the president said something about patriots. No patriot, no constitutional conservative, no one who believes in our system, the founders themselves would be appalled by the behavior of Donald Trump, the behavior of the bureaucrat. They don't like bureaucrats. A bureaucrat just shut down an American company's ability to make its own decisions. That's a lot closer to an authoritarian or even a communist regime than something that the conservatives should be embracing. This has, Charlie Kirk would be on his podcast tomorrow morning saying this is an outrage and it's wrong, it's completely un-American. But this is a crossing of the Rubicon, and I think people should take this very, very seriously.
So Van makes a good point, and I'm going to push back on something that he said, and this is the point that I want to make about where people are today on this. And we're going to talk about this in the 6:30 hour to make sure you guys are able to contribute to the conversation. Henry's going to open up the lines. Of course, our number is 773-763-9278. Want to hear from you. We've got our contest for another book that we're going to give away. But what Van said toward the end about what Charlie Kirk would be, on his podcast, upset about the freedom of speech part of this with ABC. No, I don't agree with that. And this is the mistake / conversation that is just it's perpetuating as it relates to Charlie Kirk. He was not some beacon of free speech. Let's be perfectly clear, y'all. I'm going to say this. If we make good trouble, it's a good thing. He was not a beacon of free speech. So let's cut this garbage out about how he would be the person or the voice that would step up and say what ABC did with Jimmy Kimmel is wrong. There's no way in hell he would have gone there. He would have been more along the lines of talking about how other people who have a voice, comedians and the like, are terrorists and how awful. He would not have touched that third rail and called out ABC. First of all, it would have been messing with his money. You understand that? And so I'm tired of hearing people go around and running around saying, well, this is free speech and bump Charlie Kirk's opinion on this. I don't care about it. I'm tired of it. I can't wait for today to be over and this whatever is taking place so we can move on, because there are so many other people whose lives whose Monday, Henry, I played a clip and I almost want to have you find it and play it again, and we might do this, of a pastor who spoke, and maybe if you can't find it, it was one of the Monday clips, I believe, that spoke on the way in which you die does not redeem the life that you live. Okay? I ran into a friend of mine who doesn't really get too political, super smart dude, business owner, just one of my really, really good friends. he said to me, he said, Chew, did you see the clip of the pastor? So let's get off this, what Charlie Kirk would have done, garbage. Because what Charlie Kirk did when he was alive, and I made this commitment last week, and I've been trying to keep it as much as I can this week. I'm not talking about this dude, but I am going to call out what I'm tired of hearing. I'm tired of hearing a guy got fired because he spoke the truth about something that someone did or said or observed by a weak A network, that being ABC, in their actions. ABC showed their weakness in their actions. That's how I'm phrasing a lot of things these days, about people's actions, so no one can say that I'm calling someone a derogatory name. ABC's actions showed their ability to show their weakness. I put this on them, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this when I get into a couple of clips in the 6:30 hour. I put this on them, okay? And for people to be running around saying that this dude would have been on his high horse about this conversation around freedom of speech and the First Amendment, no, he would not have been. He would have been the guy that was making the comments about people, the negative comments, the racist comments, the sexist, misogynistic comments. I came across a clip, and I don't know if I got this to Henry or not, but there's a clip that and it gets into this thing that's going on with this Charlie Kirk Day, which is just disgusting. But Charlie Kirk called Muslims stupid. So don't tell me he would have been. I mean, there's a difference between free speech. Because here's the thing. If free speech was what he stood for, then I'm freely speaking to say I think that's a damn lie. So there. What you got? You got a problem with me saying that? Look in the mirror. You know how I roll with that statement. So we're going to take a break. Henry's telling me to get quiet, dude. We got to go to a break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chew. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back. So both me and Henry have our footsuses on the wrong chords this morning. So if we have a couple little gremlin-esque technological things, just bear with us as we navigate through that. So just be with us, stay with us, and we'll work our way through. It's Friday, stuff happens, and that's live radio. Speaking of live radio, last night I had a chance to hang out with John Fugelsang, who guys you all know from Sirius XM. Tell Me Everything, and John is a master at doing this, and he's a great comedian. So I really appreciate being on his show, and we were able to chop it up and have a good time. So make sure you check out John's show on Sirius XM in the evenings. Wherever you are in the country, you can pull him up and check him out. But let me come back to kind of where we left before we took the break. We good on? No, okay. I think that right now, when I said a moment ago, I'll be glad when we're past this. The faster, the better, because we've got so many other things to talk about other than this dude. So obviously the ABC move was in response to something that was said that's tied to this dude. So that's going to keep the conversation up, unfortunately. But gas prices haven't necessarily come down in a real meaningful, measurable way. The price of groceries, remember Trump, groceries, I'm going to introduce groceries. What a knucklehead statement in any event. Groceries are, I was, again, talking with the same gentleman yesterday about this very concept of pricing. And he understands the stuff probably better than most people and probably more than everybody in the Trump regime. And he communicates with CEOs all over the country, if not the globe. That's how deep this dude's knowledge goes. And basically, he's got people telling him that what's behind the curtain, it's what we haven't seen yet with regard to tariffs. And now that, this bump in the interest rate, or I should say the reduction in the interest rate, those are things that are things that could end up making our economy worse. But that's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about getting guns off the street. We should be talking about making sure that we have the national security that we need. We should be talking about the things that are going to help with this sort of economic fear that most people are concerned about, and certainly businesses are. We should be, and I'm going to talk about those things. I'm going to keep talking about those things, because if we don't talk about those things, then this craziness will dominate. And here's the other problem. When I said this yesterday and the day before, it's still a distraction from the fact that the Epstein files have not been released in the full unredacted manner and versions. So let's not lose ourselves getting caught up in talking about this dude. Just, Jimmy Kimmel's going to be all right. Financially, the dude should be fine. Okay? He should be fine. So that's not the real issue. The issue is the way in which it was done and how it was done, and the fact that ABC bent both knees. They didn't bend a knee. They kneeled down both knees, and then they leaned over the barrel. Not standing up to this. Why would you bend the knee? Donald Trump is not a powerful person. He has the office of the presidency and de facto has power. But he himself, Mary Trump said it best. I listened to part of a podcast that she was on, an interview. Mary Trump said it best. She said that Donald Trump has never been held accountable in his entire life. And that, to me, is probably the most accurate description of why we are where we are and how he has gotten to this point. Because he himself is not powerful. He doesn't represent power. Because here's the thing, and I say this, and I'm going to say this as a black man. How many strong black men has Donald Trump actually had a debate with, a face-off with, a media exchange with? He hasn't. And I'm not saying that women are not strong. I'm in fact saying that he hasn't had a conversation with somebody like me, somebody like Roland Martin, someone like Jason Johnson, someone like Professor Eddie Glaude. The list goes on. You know, he hasn't had that kind of exchange. And I'm not saying white dudes haven't done a good job. I will say that nobody drills him back and pushes him back. Mary Trump is on point. Donald Trump has never been held accountable. And so that's what has to happen. How do we hold him accountable? We have to do the things that I talk about every day, and that's stay in the fight. How do we hold our own party accountable? Same thing. We've got to stay in the fight. We got a clip that we're going to get to you from Representative Eric Swalwell, that this is what has to be the conversation. Okay? And we'll get to that hopefully when Henry and I get our feet off the wrong chords here. And listen, guys, I know a lot of folks. You know, there's a lot of conversations that we could have about a lot of different things, and we try the best to have those conversations. And if we miss something, we miss it, and we just keep working hard to try to, bring it back to the table. And I've gotten some texts already this morning, and there's a question about the gold statue of Trump in D.C. I saw that. I haven't really dug into it yet to get more information. Someone's asking about the. Let's see what we got here. This is funny. In action, This is hilarious. Blaming WCPT for not fixing the problem with the Electoral College. Good Lord, people. So anyhow, focus on the things that we can focus on and get done. And the things that we can focus on and get done, fixing the Electoral College right now is not what we need to be focused on. Fixing the systemic issues with our economy and this issue around tariffs is something that we need to be leaning into. Can we fix it? We have to push back on Trump. We have to push back on the regime. Can we fix it? We got to get people elected to the offices to make sure that we've got the numbers. And in fixing any of our voting problems, it starts with us having the numbers that we need on a federal level to make those changes. It also an integral part of that is what happens on the state level when it comes to what states are passing when it comes to voting. And so that's got to help. That we've got to lean into that as well. So there's a lot of work to be done. But what we can't do is sit back, sit on our hands, lean back on or rest on our laurels and not do anything. Got to stay in the fight. I say it all the time. If I didn't believe it, I wouldn't be saying it all the time. We have to stay in the fight. And I'm hoping that you guys understand what I mean by that. Yeah, I just got another bit of information. This 12-foot gold statue. Oh, Lordy. See what folks did by not believing what Vice President Harris said? See what happened? Couldn't believe her. Couldn't believe her. Couldn't believe Hillary either. Both of it's like when mom tells you that you shouldn't do certain things, and you decide to be hard-headed and go on and do them anyhow, and then you burn your hand on the stove. We just burned our entire arm, and no disrespect to people who've had, been burned. I'm careful on how I say certain things like that, and please, no disrespect from me. But you know what I mean? Mom said not to go outside without a coat on. You went outside in the cold without a coat on. You got a cold. There's so many of them that we were told. And some people paid attention, Henry, and others chose not to. And I don't give a darn if anybody wants to say, stop blaming the voters. I am. Because the voters voted. So for those out there who want to say, stop blaming the voters, well, then maybe the voters should do differently. Because as much as we can be upset with the elected officials, at the end of the day, the voters are the ones that pull the lever, filled in the box. So we have to change that. And we got to stop making it be about give the voters something to vote for. You had something to vote for. And many people stayed at home. And I'm tired of people going, well, you can't be. No. If you stayed at home, And where this conversation with my friend started yesterday was when he was talking about, he asked me the questions on what are your thoughts about these farmers who are complaining now, wanting to get bailed out, et cetera. And I don't want anybody to suffer or to lose anything. But these are the same people that told us to go take a jump in the lake. That we were wrong. And so now, no, and how many times have anybody, raise your hand, send me a text, call us. How many times did you see these people who were at Trump rallies and Republican rallies talking about how great the Republicans are and how great they were going to be and what they were going to do to fix this and fix that? And how awful we as progressive liberal Democrats are? That those are the same people now that are walking around with their hands up going, what the hell happened? What happened is you didn't pay attention when we told you what was going to happen. That's what happened, folks. That's what went down. And so now we've got, these kerfuffles with the networks because, and law firms and publications taking a knee to a guy that is as weak as a wet noodle. He just happens to have the presidency to back him up. But he himself, nah. Bankruptcies, failed businesses, and the list goes on. But yet, this dude is back in the White House. So, we're going to have a contest. We're going to get to a break in a moment, but I want to give you the quick announcement for our contest for one more book that we're going to give away of Professor Leah Littman, University of Michigan law professor. We had her on the show last week, and it was great to have her with us. So she'll be back in a few weeks, but we're giving away another one of her books that I think you guys will appreciate. We gave away a couple earlier. We're getting those sent out. The book that she wrote and that we talked about when we had her on the show is called Lawless. And we have another copy that we'd like to get to you. The subtitle of the book, it's called Lawless, but the subtitle of the book is How the Supreme Court Runs on Conservative Grievance, Fringe Theories, and Bad Vibes. So, what's going to be the question for winning this book? The first call will be the one that gets it. What is that? The question is, where did Vice President Kamala Harris get her bachelor's degree from? What school did Vice President Harris get her bachelor's degree from? First person to call with that, we will definitely get a copy of Lawless from Leah Littman out to you. So stay tuned and give us a holler if you can. Not text messages, but calls so that we can kind of get you on the air for a quick second. But that's what our contest is, to give away another copy of Lawless from University of Michigan law professor Leah Littman. All right, didn't want to miss that because I'm going on about a few things. But I do want to circle back. I just had this in my notes and I didn't want to miss it. I do want to circle back to what was said in the one of the things that Van Jones said in the clip that we had. Excuse me, about crossing the Rubicon. We're already this. If anybody's wondering, are we a country that's sliding into or moving toward autocracy? The question, I think a different way of looking at that is how far are we into it rather than if we've gone into it. It's not a question of if we've gone or are we going to. It's a question of how far are we in. That's where I think we've got to be realistic with ourselves. We're there. It's a question of how far we are there. And I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. And it shouldn't have taken this latest situation with ABC and Kimmel to make us aware of that. It has for some people. that when Van uses the words, the phrase crossing the Rubicon, we're there. We've been there for longer than we probably realized. Could I tell you exactly when I think that we got there? I don't know if I would. I don't want to say something and I don't have evidence to say this is the moment. That's one of the things that we have to stop doing, I think, is just saying the moment, the moment of. We are here. We are here. The question, one of the other questions is, what are we going to do to pull back from there? Because we're there. This ABC thing may have highlighted it, may have given it more sunlight because of how blatant it was. But we're here. We are in autocracy. We are not sliding toward it. I think that one of the things that's happening is that there are certain guardrails that are still holding on to a different level of it. But guys, we're in that moment now. We just happen to have some of the luxuries that other countries who've slid into autocracy did not and don't have. We're a bigger country. We have more diversity. We have states' rights and a variety of other things that allow us to be, frankly, in certain areas of privilege where it's not affecting us directly. But we're already there. We're not sliding toward or crossing. We've crossed, Van Jones, the Rubicon. And Charlie Kirk's voice would not be any more effective now than it was before last Wednesday afternoon on the subject of freedom of speech in the First Amendment. I do not agree or believe that. What I do believe and agree is what I see with my own two eyes. We are in an autocratic environment. We're not sliding there. So how do we fight back is what's really got to be the conversation. I'm not looking to political leaders to lead me out of the darkness. I'm looking to myself first. You all heard what General Manner said earlier this week. It starts with us. It starts with each individual. So we're there, guys. We're there. So I'm going to do my best to help us out of this darkness by keeping you guys posted and up to date and motivated as best I can and plugged in. But we're here. So let's stop asking the question if we're going to or have we slipped. The answer is yes, we have. We are here. So now let's put our energy, because see, if we spend all this time asking that question, Henry, are we moving toward it? Then it slips right by. Right? It slips right by. And then the next freedom, the next liberty gets like, well, how in the hell did now I can't cross a state line unless I got a passport to cross this. That's the kind of stuff that when you ask questions like, are we going? No, acknowledge that we are in it now so that we can then prepare ourselves and fight differently because we're in it. That's what I want you guys to be thinking about. And that doesn't require us to push our leaders, our elected officials, harder and maybe differently than we have in the past. And also our business leaders. We have to call out the ABCs of the world. I see a lot of people talking about boycott this and boycott that. And oh, by the way, I don't give financial advice on this show. But if you have stock in Disney and you're saying you're going to sell your stock in Disney, I can say this without getting into any trouble. Please be careful in doing that because of the capital gains implications. Okay? Just got to say that. I had a couple people hit me yesterday with, and I was like, listen, be very careful there because there could be some capital gains implication if you're selling stock. All right. Henry, should we take a break? Can we take one safely? All right, guys, we're kind of bumping it along today, but we're getting it through. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey, guys, welcome back. Yes. All right. So, as I promised, a couple of clips that I want to hit you guys with that speak to some of the stuff that we've been paying attention to, that we've been talking about. Henry, let's go to the Ben Rhodes clip.
Some people see this and they think, well, it's just one TV show, it's just Stephen Colbert, it's just Jimmy Kimmel, it's just late night. What you have to see it as a part of a concerted strategy where not only do you have pro-Trump oligarchs consolidating control of the media, and frankly, that's what they are. I mean, we were talking about Russia, if we were talking about Hungary, if we were talking about Turkey, you're talking about government-associated oligarchs, wealthy people with interest before the government, buying up the media because that's one way to retain favor with the leader. But also, really importantly, it's the example that is set. It's not just about what Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert said. It's the fact that they basically got axed for their speech. That is a message to every other broadcaster on every other medium in this country that if you say something the leader doesn't like, you're probably at risk of getting axed. They want, Chris, people like you and me to be sitting here right now and have another voice in our head every time we open our mouths. That if we say the wrong thing, that might be it for us too, right? This is not just cancel culture. It's way beyond that. It's trying to enforce essentially an ideological test on the broad-based news media that reaches the vast majority of Americans so that the only content they're seeing is essentially ideologically aligned with whatever Trump and his FCC director and a small group of people around him think. That's what's happening. And we're pretty advanced. The only other thing I'd say, Chris, is we're pretty far along on this thing, right? Like it took Putin a while to do this. It took Orban a while to do this. I think maybe because we have to think of this as we're in year 9 of the Trump era. Like he had one term to see what the landscape was like. He had 4 years out of power to consider what he'd do if he'd get back. They studied what Orban did. They studied what Erdogan did, what Putin did. There's one playbook that has been pursued everywhere. And I think what Americans need to realize is we're not at the beginning of the playbook, Chris. We're near the end of the playbook.
Yes, and that's what I was saying before about we're here. We're not on our way. We're in it. So let's stop thinking about it like we're not there. I got a text and I want to reply. Someone said that the problem isn't Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel will be all right. I said that. I believe, I'm pretty certain I said he's going to be okay. The problem is he was done wrong by the corrupt administration. Right. I am on message. I said that it was the ABC did him wrong through the administration or indirectly because of this weak A president. Yes, we are on message with that. Jimmy Kimmel's going to be all right. He should be all right. It's what the ABC's bending of the knee, both knees, over the barrel did by yielding to Trump that causes. So y'all pay attention when I say something like that. As I said that already. And what Ben Rhodes is talking about is what I said also about we're already there. Let's stop asking the question. When you talk to someone or that's in any form of media, I don't care if it's a podcast, a show like this, anything, period, and they say we're heading toward, no, we are here. So that means we have to fight differently. Okay? And, this playbook point that Ben Rhodes made is spot on. He was on Chris Hayes' show on MSNBC, by the way, and he's a former a national security advisor to President Obama. So, yeah, I mean, let's fight differently. Let's fight very differently. And I hope that more people recognize this and realize this and prepare themselves in a way so that, like I said a moment ago, things don't just suddenly slip by like, oh, my God, now I can't do this, or I didn't know, or I wasn't aware I couldn't do that. This is what I'm hoping for. I really genuinely am hoping for. Okay, we've got some others that we want to get to you guys. Let's go to Governor Pritzker.
People are just digesting this. It's a part of a pattern. What does that look like? What is the kind of pressure you think politicians or people watching right now could put on ABC or Disney or others about this?
Well, first, everybody should be saying that ABC should reverse their decision. This is not something they should have been doing. I don't think that ABC, at least historically, has not been an organization that has exhibited this kind of behavior. But, now we're seeing the pressure that can be brought by the federal government. You can imagine the pressure that's on Disney and ABC and on their business based upon, what's been said so far today. And so I must say, I do not understand why people are not standing up and pushing back when they ought to. Because what's at stake here is free speech. It's our Constitution and our way of life. Do we really want the President of the United States intimidating people, organizations to get others fired? This is not that moment. People ought to be standing up and speaking out. What can they do? Well, it's what I've been saying for some time now, which is if we want to get action, we now can't rely upon a MAGA-controlled Congress. We can't rely on the President of the United States, seemingly, although we'll see whether we can rely on the Supreme Court of the United States. Increasingly, it doesn't appear that way. Mm-hmm. And so we only have one other thing to do, which is public action. People actually speaking up, speaking out, boycotting, showing up and protesting, and their representatives who agree with them doing the very same.
That's right. So, am I as plugged in as Governor Pritzker? I don't know. I will ride along with him in that. We have to stand up and fight. I cannot say this too much. The goal is to get us to back down. The goal is to get us to say, well, it's not that bad. The goal is to get us to acquiesce and give up space and territory. And you guys heard General Manners say the other day that that's not an option. So, don't take it from me. Take it from folks who I'll yield my position to say that they may know better than I. I don't have to be the smartest person in the room, just one of the folks in the room that's fighting. And that's what I want from all of you guys. Find the thing that is going to give you and empower you to be in this fight. I don't know. I guess I just feel like, we've got to be willing to do the thing that is going to provide us with the strength that we need to keep moving this thing forward. Let me see this text that we got. But you know what? First, let's grab this call from Big Art. Big Art, good morning. Thanks for holding, man. Welcome to the show.
Good morning to you. Thanks for taking my call. As usual, our boy Eric on Sunday in the family meeting stirred up the old hornet's nest.
Yeah, he did, in a good way.
Yeah, he really put it out there, man. So this upcoming family meeting ought to be kind of interesting because I'm sure he'll be Charlie Kirk and the response to his what he said, part 2. And it's going to be something it's going to be a lot of food for thought there. It's going to, to be honest with you, Rich, this Charlie Kirk, I had never heard of him until last week.
A lot of people haven't. A lot of people had not. My friend that I was talking about earlier said a couple of his buddies had not heard of him until this happened. So there you go. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But apparently he was like the poster boy for the RNC and for recruiting young people, mostly probably Caucasians, and his ideology or just, becoming more serious, radical, not so much radical, but conservative Republicans, just getting them early while they're in college and trying to brainwash them and put all these ideas in their heads. And it's like, the bad karma boomerang that got him because of his views on the Second Amendment, that was tragic. You don't want to see that happen to anybody. But it was like, wow, sometimes karma can be a you-know-what.
Yeah.
But it's like, how can you say something like that and think about the children of Sandy Hook, of every shooting since Sandy Hook? Are you saying all of these children their bodies deserve to be torn apart, or they deserve to die to preserve the distortion and bastardization of the Second Amendment? Really?
Yeah.
Are you mad? Sometimes I wonder Rich, did he deep down believe all this? Because it's become very easy to monetize racism and extreme right-wing ideas in this country because there's so much money and so much dark money floating around. I'm talking billions.
Yeah.
There's so much of it. And if you can just spout this stuff, because, I mean, he had a lovely wife. He had two young children, which is sad. Which is sad. But don't try and use that as a cover that he's some great guy. A lot of people have families. Come on. And end up in bad situations or end up dead for bad reasons, for ridiculous reasons. But it's like.
Listen, this is what nobody has. This is what nobody seems to have. I don't want to say guts or the courage. Eric said it. I'm going to say it. This dude was a racist, sexist, misogynistic flamethrower, and he hid behind the First Amendment as a way in which to do that. That's what he was.
He did.
And I'm sick and damn tired of people lionizing him, which is why I've done my best to not talk about him. That's who this guy was. And people need to stop this garbage about he was this. And he hid behind the First Amendment as a tool to rile up people that were going to lean into their racism, their sexism, their misogyny, and their Christian nationalism. And although Big Art, a week ago today, his wife came out with this statement about the they and how this movement was still so on Monday's show here, I pulled back my window of sympathy for her because of the fact that she turned her grief into anger and vitriol, just like her husband did when he was alive. So I am sick and doggone tired of anybody perpetuating that this guy was some, beacon of
like he's some saint.
No, he was not.
Young, future savior of the white race and of America. No, he's like a younger version, seems to me, like of Trump. A con man who just spouting all this hate and divisiveness, and it's like this is what it comes down to in a nutshell for me, Rich. Because I'm so glad when all this blows over. Trump and Vance, they can get on Air Force One and waste millions more dollars, our taxpayer my dollars, to go try and whatever, worship him or whatever they call themselves doing. But this is what it comes down to me for me, Rich. I'm not evil and so vile where I'm happy that this young man got shot. But guess what? I'm not obligated to mourn his loss either.
Bingo. That's exactly right.
Why should I mourn the loss of one of my oppressors?
Right. That's what people don't get. I mean, you get it, but that's kind of where I am. Big Art, I got to grab another call before the top of the hour, but thanks for the call. It's good to hear your voice, and I'm glad you're doing well. We'll talk soon. Let's go to Cassandra. Good morning, Cassandra. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I am well. How are you? Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely. I wanted to get you in.
I appreciate that. Appreciate it. So just touching on a few points, this whole Charlie Kirk and the fact that it's run, they've run marathons with it, it's a Shiny Keys moment.
Yep.
This is like the gift that for the next week is going to keep on giving so that people are distracted from the Epstein files.
And
people are distracted.
Oh,
go ahead.
No, and that the price of stuff isn't going down. I'm sorry, Cassandra.
Price of stuff's not going down. People are still being disappeared off the streets. You still got racial profiling has been deemed okay by the Supreme Court. They didn't limit it to just immigrants. So now it's going to be they're going to start racial profiling when those numbers go down and whatever.
Wait for the next thing. Wait for the next distraction to happen.
Right.
Once this sort of dies down a little bit, wait for the next distraction.
Right. And a lot of this is perpetuated through labels. Everything's a label, And so now he's the martyr, and you're going to, like of the generals from the Civil War. He's the martyr of today.
Yep.
And to me, it seems like the Trump cultists are so angry because they've done everything they could to get us to rise up so that they can justify having martial law and shutting the whole states down. And I think they're angry because we're not doing that now in the way that they thought in their playbook. Oh, hey, play number 28. They were supposed to be, in the streets and with guns and all this, and we're not doing that. Yep. So it's labels, it's smoke and mirrors, it's just cruelty. Yeah. And it's a big cult. And this guy is probably going to fall asleep at the memorial service, So.
Oh, Cassandra, you're going to hell, girl, because you're talking bad about the president. You're going to hell with some gasoline draws on. You're going to hell.
Oh no, my ship's not pointing in that direction.
There it is.
But the First Amendment as well.
Yeah.
And in terms of a spiritual saying, he didn't bring us this far to only leave us this far.
That's right.
So we're going to get through it, but it is going to be uncomfortable, and hopefully we're not to be the frogs that are in the pot of water as they're turning up the heat and don't realize till it's too late that it's too hot for us to survive.
And Cassandra, that one of the things I'm going to share this before we let you go. My friend that I spoke with yesterday is deeply steeped in economics. He talked about the fact that some CEOs that he works with are saying that that's not just happening with some of the political and social conversations. It's happening with the price of goods and the economy as it relates to how tariffs are affecting the price of goods, that tariff tax. He said CEOs that he's talked to are telling him it's the incremental, it's the penny a day that things are going up. He said, and that's why people are not really feeling it yet. So when he and I had this conversation, I said, wait till what Vice President Harris said last year happens, and that's when we get to the holiday season, and folks are dropping major money, and they're going, wait a minute, I spent 50% more this year on my holiday money from Halloween to New Year's. And so, that's a conversation he and I are going to have again in a few weeks. I may have him on the show. Cassandra, thank you so much, one, for calling today, and secondly, for always your clarity with some of the texts that you send. I really appreciate that, and I like that every now and again you give me a cleanup on aisle 7. So I got big shoulders. I can handle it, and it makes for a better show. So I want to say that thank you to you.
One more thing. So that my new word it's really full volume. My osity word that begins with the P. That word I gave you.
Oh yes. Yes.
It is on full. It's on 10 with all of this stuff. Yeah.
You 10x'd it, Cassandra. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Okay.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye bye. Okay, guys. Henry, can we try to work one in? All right, guys. We got sort of an adjusted version of breaks right now because we're just navigating through. I still got my foot on the wrong court. That's why things are not as good as they normally would be. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Fellow timeshare owners, if you're a timeshare owner and you want out at all costs, you're done, frustrated, tired of wasting money, you don't use the darn thing. Get out now. Hire the best bulldog timeshare cancellation team in the business. Their in-house legal team, headed by a timeshare cancellation lawyer, can help you fight the biggest and baddest companies out there that sell timeshare. At some point, you were using your timeshare, but now you're not, and you're tired of wasting money. Before you go to the poorhouse, Call right now and learn how you can stop the maintenance fees and put more money back in your pocket. Their services cost you a lot less than you think, and you'll save a lot of money over time. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline now. It's a free consultation.
800-296-0150. 800-296-0150. 800-296-0150. That's 800-296-0150.
Constipation with belly pain that keeps coming back and back and back. If your symptoms keep coming back, talk to your doctor. It could be irritable bowel syndrome with constipation or IBS-C. Linzess could help you get ahead of it. Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
Viking, dedicated to creating travel experiences for the thinking person, with programs designed for cultural enrichment on board and on shore. Discover more at Viking.com.
This is a WCPT 820 Heartland Signal News Minute.
Let me make it clear that the only people who can shut down government at this point are the Republicans. And they can shut down the government by not working with Democrats.
That's Senator Tammy Duckworth, Democrat of Illinois, speaking on WCPT's Live, Local, and Progressive ahead of the September 30th deadline for the Republican-controlled Congress to fund the federal government.
We've told them what we want. We've said we want it to be bipartisan. Please speak with us. And so far, they're not negotiating with Democrats, at least not here in the Senate. So we ask them, please negotiate with us and please restore the cuts to Medicaid. And there are several things. The first and foremost is the Medicaid cuts. We also want SNAP benefits restored for our low-income children, and we want to promise not to touch Medicare because they're trying to go after Medicare.
For WCPT 820 and Heartland Signal, I'm Andy Miles.
Save big money on your roofing project at Menards with Owens Corning Shingles. Your roof is the first line of defense against the elements and enhances the appearance of your home's exterior. Owens Corning Duration Shingles offer ultimate protection and impressive curb appeal. Choose from 24 colors of Owens Corning Duration Shingles and transform your home today. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278. It's Friday, and I love all the text messages that you guys are sending us. Thanks to Big Art for the call, and thanks to Cassandra for her call and her text and her information. We have a guest in the studio, but you guys aren't surprised. It's Friday, and that means that Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics podcast is hanging out with us today. Good morning.
Well, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great.
How's everybody doing?
I'm a little fired up this morning about a variety of things, but we got to stop being distracted, y'all. And it's one of those things where we and I've got a clip that we'll get to in a little bit, but we got to stop being distracted. And then stop saying, as I said earlier, we're headed toward. We are in.
We're in it.
We are in it, and if we're snatching people off the street, that should have been, I was saying earlier, Karen, I don't know when. I don't want to try to say it happened here at this moment because, I guess that's not really necessary. The fact that we're in it is what is important. And we're going to talk about a few things this next half hour before Eric Schultz is with us. But, Karen has been, right up close and personal and I don't want to have to relive some of the things that she's seen in the last few days.
That's why I'm there. So,
but she's had some interesting conversations and observations and just downright things that have ticked her off about what she's seeing when it comes to these ICE raids. I was just sharing with Karen that I was heading home from the station earlier this week, and because I saw a couple of vehicles that had pulled over a person, and my tentacles are up whenever I see that. 2 police cars and 1 unmarked car. I stopped paying attention to driving in traffic and almost ran into a car in front of me because I was trying to see what was going on, and that would have been awful because somebody would have probably been injured. But I say that to say that we are in it.
Mm-hmm, we are.
And Karen has got a couple of stories to share, sad stories about some things that she's encountered in this last week or so.
Well, first of all, I just want to say hats off to anybody who is bearing witness and working to throw some sand in the gears of these operations out on the street where these unmarked civilian sedans in some cases, it's a kind of a variety of vehicles. And yes, I'm 60 years old, so I do use the word vehicle.
That's right, we do.
Like a 22-year-old, no, not so much. You know what I'm getting at.
Yes,
okay.
I do.
So anyway, but they're rolling up on people. Let's be clear, they're pulling people over because they are brown.
Yep.
That is why and the Supreme Court made it possible for them to be able to do that. So there is no probable cause. They always roll up on these people and say that, we give us your ID. We need to know if you're the person we're looking for.
Right.
Okay. Well,
shouldn't it be conclusive?
You are the onus is on you. You were supposed to have probable cause to pull somebody over. You were supposed to present a warrant in every single situation, every single conversation that I've been having with these family members that are showing up at the Broadview Detention Center looking for their loved ones, just on a hunch that their loved one was taken here. Mm-hmm. In some cases, there was a woman whose fiance was kidnapped, who they didn't turn his phone off right away. So she had a pretty good idea that he was at that facility. Mm-hmm. But in many cases, people are showing up and they have no idea whether their loved one is there or not. In every single situation, they did not present a warrant.
Yeah. So this is the reason that I said earlier, guys, that we are not heading toward. We are there. So let's do the best we can to provide some solutions. I think one of the things this may not be a solution, but it may be a tool to affect the situation is wherever you're in the country. If you happen to be in a community where there is a predominance of certain communities, then do your part to show up as either a protester, and as I said this last week in terms of
peaceful, what
your rights are, peacefully protesting, to at least, because what happens with that is when there are protests, when there are people showing up at different detention centers, and as we just saw, we had a number of elected officials get arrested trying to inspect one. But when you show up, the media shows up. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the tools that we can use to affect this right now is to show up. By showing up, by showing up at the detention centers, the media may want to, but they can't look away when there are people that are there protesting and trying to provide support. Also, and the other thing that I think is important in terms of a solutions-oriented, or at least a thing to affect, if you know someone that's an immigration attorney, and you know someone that's been caught up in this system, try to make the connection for those people. I mean, we've got a couple that we've had on the show, namely Kate Lincoln Goldfinch down in Texas and others. But that's another tool to affect the situation, is plug people into an immigration attorney or attorneys if you happen to know one.
Yes. I'm going to put the call out to Representative Davis, Representatives Caston, any representative that is in the area of Broadview. That building is boarded up.
Yeah.
They are holding people. The longest that I have heard in my conversations with family members was over a week. They are keeping people in a boarded up building.
So all the things that come with that are right there should cause.
So our reps need to show up.
Yeah.
Show up and start asking to be let in to inspect the conditions there.
And take the risk of getting detained yourself, because we've seen it happen, and that's just. And I don't mean you as an individual. I'm not advocating for anybody as a private citizen to get detained. That's a decision that you have the right to make. I'm saying our elected officials.
Our elected officials have the responsibility, and they also have the right to show up at these facilities
and see what the hell's going on.
See what's going on.
If they're in their congressional district.
Absolutely.
And that's why we named out Caston and Davis because of where this boarded up building. I'm not even going to call it a detention center. Mm-hmm. This boarded up building is. So, yes. The other thing that I would add to a thing to do to affect this is if there is a building or whatever, a structure, whatever, in the district that you live in, anywhere in the country, then call your congressman or woman. Call your state senator and say that our fellow Americans, our fellow citizens, our fellow folks are being held, are being detained in a building that does not look safe. God forbid. Mm-hmm. One of these buildings that, like this particular one in Broadview, suddenly had a fire.
And they have fire ordinances there. I know they have. I've done business in Broadview, and they have strict fire ordinances. And when I showed up at the Village Hall to inquire about what they were prepared to do, they said it was outside of their jurisdiction. So this just speaks to the moment that we're in, too, with our federal government. It is, you call it whatever you want, fascism. This is an abuse of power.
Yeah.
They are coming in and they are taking over. They're using these buildings, using our tax dollars to roll into neighborhoods, terrorize people, snatch people up, not let anybody know. I mean, these are fathers, mothers. These are parents that are being taken and moved across state lines. Mm-hmm. In one situation, I spoke with a couple of adult daughters in their late 20s whose father was taken to Broadview, held for 6 days, and then basically, this is a different story. I'm sorry, I'm getting the two confused. But this one particular story was, Dad was held for 6 days. They brought him. He had a court appearance, was let go, was released, and then the next day they showed up at the house and picked him up again.
So they're just basically hunting people down.
Right, they're hunting people down. The other story, this is the one I was thinking of. Adult woman, her father was taken. He's been here for 30 years. They brought him to Broadview. And then they moved him to Lake County, Indiana. Mm. They're moving them around. Another story where they're taking people, loading them on the bus out of Broadview, taking them to the airport and flying them to Louisiana, where they know that these judges are going to deport them rapidly.
Yeah.
So these are the things. But the story that needs to be told, too, is the impact on the family. Now, this individual, Anna, she's got 3 children. She's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Yeah. I mean, these are incomes that are now removed. So the impact of this, Richard, and, the agriculture secretary, did you hear what she had to say about it?
I missed that. You shared that, and then I want to bring back something that I talked about yesterday. Go ahead.
So she was asked about, what are we going to do about the labor shortage? These farmers who voted for Donald Trump, they're being hit by the tariffs, and they're also having their workforce taken away and with these mass deportations. And so she asked, what is the solution for the labor shortage on these farms? And the Secretary of Agriculture said that, well, Donald Trump's idea, their big idea, is that they're going to have Medicaid recipients take those jobs.
Oh, Lordy.
So these are the jobs that they have been for decades screaming that these immigrants are taking from Americans. Okay, and now they're going to go after. And we both know the majority of people that are accepting Medicaid are the elderly and children and white people. But you know what that is. Yeah. What that is when they say Medicaid and when they say SNAP assistance to their idiot base, what they're saying is black people.
Yeah.
That's the signal.
Yeah.
And shame on this administration. Shame on the Republican Party. Shame on all of us. It is time for us to start shaking people awake. If they're not paying attention, we all need to be out there shaking people awake to what is going on. I have people, and I'm sorry, I'm just kind of fired up. I had a woman, and she's not a Trump voter. She cannot stand Trump. She loves President Obama. She's whatever. But she was saying, well, explain to me how it's bad that they're, going after these criminals. I go, they're not criminals. What people need to be very clear about, they're not going after criminals, okay? People that are here undocumented, that's a misdemeanor. These are not criminals. There's a bigger criminal sitting in the White House right now. There's a bigger criminal down in Texas right now.
And even
Ken Paxton.
We don't even have to, if we're defining it as going after criminals, and who we could be going after versus, I look at it even in maybe my simpler terms, which is, why are we wasting time going after people that
on work trucks
that we can be actually helping? And so rather than using the strength of the country and the financial means of the country to go after people that are maybe here on an expired visa, and that's a whole nother conversation. Maybe rather than going after the people whose papers aren't quite right, that are from a southern border country, let's put it that way, because I want to separate that from those who are from European countries
that have overstayed their visas.
So are we looking at the technicality of what's legal versus what's not legal? We're not. We're looking at brown-skinned people.
That's right.
And so if rather than wasting resources on what ICE is doing, and I've said this so many times, how about redirecting those resources towards making that situation better and more palatable and more functional? How about this?
Hiring more immigration attorneys and judges and fixing the broken system.
If we're going to focus on immigration, let's go back to the bill, the bipartisan bill that the Biden administration had put forth and had bipartisan support, and Trump got in the way of that. And now, for those who are maggots, GOP, and Republicans, anywhere in the country, I want you to hear this. Or if you're listening to this show and that's not who you are, I want you to share it with people that are. $177 billion to ramp up ICE. How about if we took that money and put it into your communities, maggots, and helped your community actually get stronger on economic issues that you've been begging for, but blaming the Democrats for not getting it done, when in fact your party, the people that you voted for, are the ones that are taking that money and essentially using it to harm people's lives, as Karen just so well described, and tearing apart families. How about putting things together for families of all communities? But they're too damn stupid to do that. Henry, can we take a little bit of a break? We got this stuff. Okay. Guys, we're going to take a break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM, and 103.5 FM in Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia.
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-708-3091. 800-708-3091. 800-708-3091. That's 800-708-3091.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Good to be with you this morning. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito. We'll be taking your calls the first half of the show and then talking to Mike Sozan of the Center for American Progress Action Fund and Out Chicago host Scott Duff, along with film critic Rebecca Ford. That's Live, Local, and Progressive here on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years. HeartlandSignal.com and TuneIn Radio. Tonight, 5 to 7, Paul Shivari will be sitting in for Patty Vasquez. And his guests include Ed Yanka, Director of Communications and Public Policy for the ACLU of Illinois. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Next week, Mike Nellis, Dante King, Alonzo Plow, Robert Wood of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Bill Zdenek of American Cancer Society will be with us. So we're looking forward to having those voices chime in. The Credo mobile phone and text line, as always, is 773-763-9278. And WCPT listeners now get 25% off for 2 years at Credo Mobile with the code WCPT25. And of course, that's Credo Mobile, a progressive phone company that is better for all people and the planet. Visit credomobile.com. Okay, guys. Karen and I want to have want some people to celebrate the Thelma and Louise moment and go kick rocks. And one of the voices that's been very, very vocal, elected official that spoke recently about this FCC situation. I think you guys want to hear this clip because this is the kind of voice that has to keep coming from Democratic leaders. Let's go to the clip, Eric Swalwell.
So I want to make it clear, there's going to be a Democratic majority in just over a year. And to the FCC chairperson and anyone involved in these dirty deals, get a lawyer and save your records, because you're going to be in this room and you're going to be answering questions about the deals that you struck and who benefited and what the cost was to the American people because that happened.
Yep. That's what's going to happen, and I'm beyond optimistic. Playing this realistic in terms of the Democrats taking back the House. Not going to happen in the Senate, but the House will be back in the hands of Democrats. The same friend, we had a really great conversation yesterday, asked, what do I think will happen? And so this is kind of how I'm looking at this. The regime right now, Karen, is doing everything they can to do a couple things. The distraction is a big part of this game. We know that. The other part of this game that's very, very clear is that they want to, and they are, tearing down as many things as possible, as quickly as possible. So, going back to what I said about what Van Jones says, no, we've crossed the Rubicon, to use his phrase, and we're not teetering toward, we're already in autocracy. They're doing everything they can to get as many things from what you and I spoke to so much of last year, of Project 2025, in place, because the midterms are going to favor the Democrats. I'm not going to get into if we have an election and all that conversation, okay? We take back the House, and even with this gerrymandering that's taking place, we still will have the numbers if we stay focused. So what does that mean to the administration? What does that mean to Republicans? It means what Eric Swalwell said, and I agree with him. Y'all better, those of you on the right that have been supporting this, that are elected officials, y'all better be ready.
Yeah.
And the Dems better make sure that they keep their promises. And their campaign messaging should be in every single House race. What do we stand for? We stand for rolling back what this Republican regime has done. Our opponents in the House of Representatives, not our colleagues, the White House, we're coming after all of that to reset the clock for America. Mm-hmm. That should be versions of that language should be part of what Democrats run on. And that is, we're coming for the Republicans that have wrecked this country. Mm-hmm. Nothing soft like we're going to save democracy and all that other. That's great, but it needs to be hardcore messaging that gets people to realize that these people are actually fighting.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad. Yeah, keep your records. We need to be making the list. We need to be documenting. We need to be filming these ICE agents because the day of reckoning will come. We're not looking for retribution. We're looking for accountability.
Yeah.
And the people that are engaging in this illegal behavior and unconstitutional behavior, denying people free speech.
Get ready.
Get ready. Get ready, because there will be investigations, hearings, and this is what Democrats need to be running on. This is what Democrats right now need to be. There is no district, there is no state race, nothing that should be
taken
uncontested.
Right.
They need to be, and I don't see a lot of these videos anymore, but the Democrats that are going into different districts that are not their own, going into different states that are not their own, and meeting with the people.
Right.
Because people, and this is the thing, earlier in the show you were talking about, the people and how they voted, the people that voted for Republicans, the third party voters. The largest segment, we have to understand this, are the people that are apathetic, not paying attention, that didn't bother to pay attention and didn't bother to turn out. Those people we need to start shaking awake. And we need to start making them understand exactly what is happening right now, because you guys decided to stay at home. And yes, all of those other things are true.
Yeah.
But yes, it's kind of a yes and. We have to be having those conversations.
It's got to be both. And
multi-pronged. Absolutely.
I just got a great text that said it can't be just against what they did and rolling back. It has to be both. And I agree with that. This is the problem. It can't be just what they're for.
Yes.
Or just what they're against. It has to be both. The mistake that's been made, it's been one or the other.
Yes.
And the Democrats can't make that mistake again. They have to be, what are you voting for? I agree with that. But it also has to be, we're fixing the stuff that these mugs messed up.
Right.
Because a lot of people, that's what they do want to vote for. Mm-hmm. This is where I think Democratic messaging gets a little bit fuzzy, is that there are people that want to vote for Democrats that are going to come in and fight and knock over tables as much as they want to, which is against the things that the Republicans have done. Mm-hmm. At the same time, it has to be about, for lack of better words, the kitchen table items of what we're going to vote for, what we're going to do for you.
But you have to let people know who's responsible for this, because that the messaging, the vast majority of the messaging is around making these, and we're guilty of it too, making these blanket statements of Congress is broken.
It's not Congress.
It's Republicans
in Congress.
It's Republicans. We have to say that every time.
And I think part of that running on in every single district, every single congressional district is up for a fight.
Yes.
And they're, to use Howard Dean to some extent, 50-state strategy, but maybe all-district strategy. Mm-hmm. And voting. Here's what we're going to do for you, and here's what we're going to do to name out the things that were done against you. Mm-hmm. If the Dems don't get that dual message in, they're missing the opportunity to speak to both or multiple people with multiple desires and wants right now. I know there are people that want, I get calls from people, I get texts from people that say, when are the Dems going to do this? Mm-hmm. That this is point out what Republicans have been doing in Congress and on a state level. Mm-hmm. So see, this is what we can't miss, the state level stuff. The state level elections, the state legislatures are dropping the ball as well, meaning what Republicans are doing. And because of some of the information we get from Heartland Signal, I've got evidence to show that.
Yes.
So let's talk. I almost said talk out of both sides of our mouth. Let's talk about both things at the same time.
Absolutely, we have to multitask.
And if we, because I'm locked into that because too many people are asking for both.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just asking for, because to a great extent, what Democrats can do for voters is obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't talk about, because let's put it this way, there's a reason that PTSD is applicable in our world. There are people who have been harmed by what the Republicans in Congress have done and in state legislatures.
And they need to know, but people need to know that they've been harmed by them.
And I think that missing that is a big mistake. Now, that's, I believe that we have to do both.
Mm-hmm.
And we can figure out the how of that.
Sure.
But that's got to be how as we go forward. Wow.
We have to be the helpers. What we're doing, having these conversations.
Yeah.
What we're doing and what, progressive, talk radio on Sirius, what obviously Heartland Signal and WCPT does every single day is have those important conversations so that the people that are listening know how to have those conversations with the people that they know.
Right.
And there's no more, talking to our non-voting families and friends without challenging them.
Well, and that's where what are we going to do for? And I know we got to go to this break.
Mm-hmm.
That's the people that did not vote. That 89 million folks that did not vote. They're the ones that need to hear the message, in my opinion, of what we can do for. Because many of them stayed home and didn't vote because they didn't feel like there was something that they should be voting for, or that there was something to vote for. I'm not using that as cover for them. That's their reasoning, whether we agreed with it or not. That's what a lot of people said in the autopsy.
Well, and what I hear from so many people that I know that, don't vote is because all politicians do this.
Yeah.
Both sides are the same. All of the laziest takes.
Yeah.
So not only are you not doing your due diligence and finding out the facts and understanding that both sides don't, in fact, do it,
right.
And there's plenty of data to support that, okay, we need to show people the data. Show the data.
And that's the for part. That's part of what the for doing for is about. Let's take a tiny break.
Okay.
773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR in Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
It's nice to know someone is on your side. Mark Drugs always has your back. No two dogs are the same. A dosage form or strength of medication that works for one dog may not work for another. A compounding pharmacy like Mark Drugs is here to help you with your pet's medication challenges. We'll be happy to help you when your pet is sick. After all, it can affect the whole family. That's why we give our four-legged patients customized medications to make it easier for them to take. For pet medication problems, first see your veterinarian. Then talk to your hometown independent compounding pharmacy, Mark Drugs. If you'd like to know more about the ways we can personalize medication for each individual patient, we'd be happy to help. We are a compounding pharmacy, which means we can prepare the medication prescribed in a strength and dosage form that meets the patient's needs. Ask us how our pharmacy can help. You have a choice when it comes to your health care, and a great choice is Mark Drugs and Roselle and Deerfield, where you get better health and care for you and your pets. Check out the Pet of the Month at markdrugs.com.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show.
Jeez.
Crazy
Come
morning.
on.
We say this a lot. I've said this a lot over the years on the family meeting, that what happens during the break and what's said during the break is where the real good stuff is. This morning we have kind of a new member of the team hanging with us that was great having on a few weeks ago, and that's Professor and Chair of the Department of History here in Chicago at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Good morning, Professor Kevin Schultz. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be back, and I'm delighted to talk history of what's going on with you guys.
Yeah, well, listen, in the last couple of weeks since you were on, the last time. A lot of things have happened that are now part of our current history, and we all know what those items are. But, your book, and this is one that I think a lot of people need to get and read and think about and process. And that book is called Why Everyone Hates White Liberals, Including White Liberals. I mean, every time so the book's on my desk in my office, and every time I look at the title of it, I laugh at the second part, including white liberals, because that's the part where I just go, okay, yeah. I mean, as a black dude, I can look at that and go, I know a bunch of white liberals who actually feel that same way. But Doc, glad to have you with this morning. You get this.
And for listeners who haven't seen the book, the design team at University of Chicago Press made the cover to be, it sort of looks like aluminum foil. It's like a mirror.
I know.
So when you look at the book, you see your own reflection in it, which is part of the joke, too. I didn't come up with that. That was the brilliant people at University of Chicago Press. But it just signifies that there is a lot of snarky humor in there, and there's a lot of a sense that we as Americans can do better and should do better, and a lot of sense that we're struggling to do better, but sometimes we get in our own way,
Yeah. Well, it probably took me, in all honesty, a week to have caught that, and it was literally because I had it's on my desk and the sunlight hit it a certain way. I was like, "What's wrong with my book?" And I went, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with my book." I'm just being honest, y'all. That's what happened. I thought something was wrong with my book because of the way the sun hit it. Then I realized, oh, that's the way they designed it. So anyhow, I can be sometimes too literal on things, and I'm like, the title is what got me, but the visual of how it's designed. But great book. I've had a chance to peel through it a little bit more. But when you were on a few weeks ago, we had one of our quote unquote white liberal friends who is in agreement with you in terms of the title.
Yes.
And that would be who's chuckling in the background is my good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics podcast. So shout out to both of you.
Hello, Professor.
Hello, Karen. Good to chat again.
Yes.
And I'm glad that book title resonates with you. Mm-hmm. It's funny. Everywhere I go around the country to talk about this book, it starts getting people laughing, starts getting people talking about their neighborhoods, start getting people talking about local politics and how they walk their dog in the morning and they see all those signs that say, "In this house we believe." Mm-hmm. And they wonder, is there a little more that maybe, if they're white liberals, they can do to improve life in the United States?
Yes.
So, yeah, it was fun chatting with you a couple of weeks ago about the book, yeah.
Well, I'm always careful to use absolutes. Sometimes I do, but I'm careful in using them. And right now, who was I talking with about this earlier in the week? I can't remember right now. But the thing that came out of my mouth, which is something that I've been saying for a long time, is that the fight that we're in right now, particularly when we're talking about cultural issues, and how we go about fixing and repairing that, whether it be on a federal level with how folks are voting in Congress, or who's going to be running next in these next big elections, and who's going to, and then on the state level, ultimately, and the statement that I made, Professor, is that this is not a fix that black folks and other folks of color are going to be at the tipping point to fix. This is really where we are in this country. The real fix is going to have to come from non-black folks and non-people of color. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where you are in the book and some of the things that you talk about very strongly in the book. But I want to kind of get your thoughts on that in this environment that we're in right now.
Well, at a general level, I agree with you. I absolutely think that the coalition that the Democratic Party is trying to form is not coalescing. Let's put it that way. This last election, we saw a lot of brown and black voters, especially brown and black men, leave the traditional home in the Democratic Party. And it seems like the way I phrase it is there's kind of a civil war going on right now in the Democratic Party. And on the one side, you sort of have, well, in the center of American politics, you've got a bunch of sort of traditional white liberal politicians who are advocating something like the status quo when it comes to economic redistribution, who want to make deals with the Republicans, who are eager to keep sort of a centrist politics that sort of has been working sort of for some Americans for the last 2-3 decades. And on the other side of the Civil War, you get sort of somebody coming out of the democratic socialist tradition, folks like Bernie Sanders and AOC, and they want to put at the forefront of democratic politics, of course, economic equality. Economic inequality has been exacerbated so much in the last 50 years, and especially in the last 20 years, that they want to make that as the primary issue. And I think there is a lot of overlap in that Venn diagram between the two factions of the party. And I think in order for the Democratic Party to be successful and actually to mount a challenge to Donald Trump and MAGA America, I think that those two factions of the Democratic Party will have to find that sort of overlapping area in the Venn diagram. We're kind of beginning to see it, I would say, in the Democratic mayoral candidacy of Mamdani in New York, where he is talking, bread and butter kitchen table issues about the economy. But he is also talking about how maybe we can bring in many more factions by rousing the 1/3 of the voters that you all were talking about before I got on, who just stayed home. Let's offer some free public transportation. Let's get the cost of childcare down. Let's do some of these large-scale projects that we in the United States have sort of left behind. And I think that's really speaking to this big overlap in the Democratic Party, where the two sides could sort of rally each other and form a strong coalition.
So a couple things popped into my mind. One of the things that my good friend and colleague and host of the show called The Family Meeting, which is also here on WCPT, his name is Eric Grant. And we've talked about this for a long time, that the Democratic Party misses the boat sometimes when they just talk about, when they don't talk about what to vote for and only talk about what to vote against. And I think that it has to be a mix of both. It has to be voting against the things that are not good for the country and voting for things that people need, going back to what you said about the kitchen table items. But you're also somewhat saying that whatever it is, it's got to come together. And the singular message, it may be a dangerous message at this point in time because it's not really fully reading the entire room. Where do you sit in that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Obviously, any politician can be talking about more than one thing at any time. Politics is a coalition of issues that you believe in. And I think, in a way, I think Donald Trump's attempts recently to use the murder of Charlie Kirk to create a real us versus them society, that's been his game all along. Just by reading, the tweets that he puts out on Truth Social. I think he's the only one on Truth Social as far as I can tell, but sure enough, I see those screenshots. I see those screenshots all the time. And the real idea is, if you believe me, then you're a Republican, and if you don't believe me, then you're somebody else. And I think the Democratic Party has a real opportunity here because his language, his words, his real extreme attempts to separate the American population, they curry favor with the diehard MAGA folks, but I do think he is shedding voters and creating a real opportunity for the Democratic Party. I mean, just recently, over the firing or what they do with Jimmy Kimmel, they put him on. Yes, right. They quieted him down. This brings together Gavin Newsom and Tucker Carlson, who both speak out against the president doing this, So when you have a coalition that could be as broad as that, it's kind of striking. And I'm not saying Tucker Carlson's ever going to be part of the Democratic coalition, but I do think there's a lot of disaffected people who see what President Trump is doing as a massive overreach. And all the things that Kamala Harris was talking about and Joe Biden before her with this rise of the threat of authoritarianism, that is what we're seeing in live time right now. She wasn't wrong. But I think she lost that election in large part because she did not talk about those kitchen table items as well as Donald Trump. Joe Biden didn't help her. He didn't put his name on all the amazing things that he was doing as far as the green energy economies that he was trying to create, the infrastructure bill, things like that. So I agree with you that both of these need to be things that are talked about, and they can be done simultaneously. And I think it's just a few missed opportunities by the Democratic politicians in the last few elections.
I do agree with a big part, but my little bit of pushback is that she didn't talk about. She did talk about them, but she talked about them in a way that, and again, we're constantly doing the autopsy, which is sometimes part of history. It takes away the impact of racism, sexism, and as I say, I've got four legs to the stool of problems in America: racism, sexism, misogyny, white Christian nationalism, and privilege. And so those things were equally powerful messages from the right up and down the ticket to get lots of people to come. How do I want to say this? To lean into the thing that was most important to them, which are those four areas. Now, what the Democratic Party could have done differently and versus what should be done going forward, I think right now is to make it clear that the fact that the Republican Party may have talked about those issues, but they really didn't have a plan to affect change on those issues. And so to your point about what the Trump administration is doing and what Republicans are doing up and down tickets in state legislatures and on a federal level is they're not delivering on the things that they said that they were going to deliver on, not even deliver on, but that they were going to try to do. They haven't done anything, period, to actually address every single thing that they ran on. That's, to me, is the opportunity. That's part of the opportunity. Democrats have to acknowledge that Republicans did not deliver, and this is what we're going to do for you to deliver. That's me, though.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. Just talking about the future, I mean, I agree that Donald Trump said he was going to, cut housing or cut grocery prices on day one and end the war in Ukraine on day one. He said he made all these promises and, of course, hasn't followed through. I do think, Donald Trump is an incredibly savvy politician. As much as the listeners here don't want to hear that, I do think he's probably the greatest politician of his generation. Taken down both the Bush and the Clinton dynasties in one election. He's sort of really shifted politics in ways that are significant. And I think we need to pay attention to that. But I also
big
think
assist
that
from the media.
Smart.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, Doc,
with a huge assist from the mainstream media.
And right now, so I said earlier in the show, and I said it in part yesterday. What's happened to ABC is of their own making, because they've had opportunities for 9 years, as have all media outlets that are the mainstream media and the cable outlets. They have had opportunities for 9 years to call it as it is when it comes to Donald Trump, and they didn't do it. And now he's taken over their ability to actually do that, because if they do, it's at a threat of losing their license. So the media made him more than he actually is. He saw that and this is, if I give him credit for anything, he does have an innate sense for sensing where there's weakness. I would give him that credit, but not necessarily as the one that's been able to I mean, yeah, you're right, but let's be honest. If the mainstream media had called out during the 2016 campaign what actually was truthful about Donald Trump, taking down Bush and Clinton would have been a hell of a lot harder to do. And so to that end, yes, we give the credit for the success because he is in the White House, but that doesn't. We can't let the mainstream media off the hook.
I call him a master manipulator,
without a doubt, and people can be easily manipulated without good books to read, like Why Everybody Hates White Liberals.
but let's think in terms of constructively building a coalition that might overturn the MAGA order that we've seen happen. He was speaking, regardless of the media's role in calling out the lies, and I do remember they were counting the lies. There were fact checkers that were developed on the scene at the time to call this stuff out. But his ideas, as crass as they were, as childish as they were, coming up with terrible nicknames for people and mocking people with disabilities and things like that, it spoke to a significant percentage of the American population. And I think the Democratic Party needs to deal with that fact. And that brings us back to where we were earlier, where the Democratic Party needs to both be able to talk about the rise of authoritarian politics and the danger of fascism, while also talking about fear at the kitchen table politics and the cost of groceries and the cost of gasoline and how health insurance is not functioning for most Americans. They need to be able to talk about both of those kinds of issues at the same time.
Without a doubt. I don't want this time around a couple things to happen. One of them is to just talk about the kitchen table issues, or to just talk about what they did, the against. So it's for and against, and if it's not, that goes back to what you said, Professor, about the coalescing of these factions in the Democratic Party have to find their way together, because when that happens, that's when that successful message will actually resonate. Because a lot of the people that are following the AOCs and the Byrnes of the world are the people that actually didn't vote. That's what the data is showing. So we get to pull from both pools and have a winning messages. And the other thing I don't want to see this time around is for us to wait. And I've said this a number of times on the show. I don't want us to wait for the one person to emerge as the singular voice. That would be another big mistake. There are going to be multiple voices that have to emerge, and they have to start emerging now. In terms of, and again, we're talking about the White House and winning the presidency, but I think that the mistake that we can't make again is to wait for one person. And that's why your point about coalescing and coalescence is critically important, because it's going to bring those ideologies and those thoughts together, I believe. But it can't be just that one person riding in on his or her white horse.
Yeah, and one of the sort of interesting initiatives that the Democratic politicians, the Democratic, not the machine, but the energy has been, is to recruit people to run for office around the country for, as you were talking about before I got on the air, the sort of lower level state offices and the county offices and the city offices, and sort of to build up this talent pool from down below. It's interesting that the Republicans have been doing that for a couple generations now. And the Democrats are just now sort of coming out. And, I mean, if you're like me, you probably get an email saying, do you want to run for office, every other day or something like that. So that has been something that you're talking about, which is, yes, we're going to need, somebody to sort of organize this and to lead on this, but it can't just be one person who carries the torch. It has to be a whole bunch of people with a lot of energy moving things forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right now I think that's it's not so much a mistake, but it's a strategy that we can't lean into again. And that I believe the reason that having more voices now is effective or important is that will help to bring the people who've been on the sidelines back into the game, because I think, and again, my political instincts tend to be pretty decent. I think that's what also people are asking for. People want to be involved. And I think that for such a long time that the political structure in the Democratic Party has been that it's politics in America because we have a two-party system. But I think that for a long time, there's been a sense that we know better than you. We're the ones that have the better ideas. We're the ones that are right. Let us go and do this. And what maybe is,
and that's why everyone hates white liberals.
There you go. But that's a good time to drop that in, because that's what a lot of the white liberal mainstream mindset has said to so many people. We know how to do this. We got this. And then, the think tank group steps in, another large group of white liberals that says we've got this, but not really listening to the people and saying, here's what we're going to actually be able to do for you. And not only what we're going to do for you, but how we're going to do it and how it's going to actually impact your life. That's the reason that 4 has to be part of the conversation, as much as we're going to vote against these things and highlight the things that have been done by the GOP. And that's kind of how I'm hoping that this party turns itself around.
Well, I'm a history professor, so I've been talking to media all week long about the rise of political violence in the United States, and are there any historical precedents to this, and how does the United States come back from the brink of what looks like a very dangerous, perilous time? And so I sort of have had the opportunity to go back and think through this a little bit. And one of the eras, political violence is sort of operates at a generally high level in the United States. Just in general, our nation was founded in revolution, conquest over native peoples, enslavement. There's all sorts of sort of a high level of political violence that is existing in the United States and has existed throughout its sort of entire life. But beyond that, at a secondary level, there are peaks and valleys in political violence. And one of the peaks that maybe is a little bit similar in some ways to what we're experiencing today is the period from the end of the Civil War, sort of starting with the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, all the way into the sort of early 1900s. And there were 3 presidents who were assassinated. There was all sorts of political violence and strikes. And during the 1877 railroad workers, there were railroad workers across the country that are actually digging up the railroad tracks and burning down depots in order to fight for workers' rights. And there was sort of a lot of tension, a lot of fear about what was going to happen to our democracy with the rise of all of this political expression in violent forms. And what ended up happening in some ways was some politicians, especially Democratic politicians, but also some Republicans, they recognized that there was this widespread search for order, to borrow a title of a book that was written by Robert Levy, this widespread search for order. And how can we sort of give some people what they want without overturning and overruling democratic order? And this resulted in sort of the progressive era changes that brought things like direct election of senators, a redistributive tax policy, some greater government regulations, some first conservation efforts by Teddy Roosevelt. So you did get to see through this sort of massive action. I'm not endorsing political violence at all, but I am saying what you're saying, which is the population, when they wake up and start pushing back against repression and oppression, even and especially in peaceful ways, that the politicians will have no choice but to respond.
Yep, that is a great historical reminder of what that protesting, being awoke, getting out, being in the mix, fighting, as I say, chins up, shoulders back, has done historically, and it takes a revolution, and we're at that point because we're not sliding into autocracy. We're already there. Dr. Kevin, what's happening your way? How can folks find you? We're going to have you back on in a few weeks again, but in the meantime, how can folks find you?
I'm going to be doing a book talk today at the Seminary Co-op down in Hyde Park on the campus of University of Chicago at 4 o'clock. If you want to head down there, you can see me and we can talk about the fate of democracy and the why everyone hates white liberals, including white liberals. And in the meantime, you can come find me on Facebook or Instagram at Professor Schultz. And I'm happy to receive emails and talk to anybody who wants to find me on the UIC webpage. Go to the history department. I'm the chair of the history department. And I look forward to all engagement I get with all the listeners.
Absolutely. Thanks for being with us on this Friday. Karen, thanks for being with us today. You guys,
thank you.
Appreciate you all tuning in and hanging with us this week. As we say always, take a deep breath, make your life count, and smile at a stranger today. We'll see you next week.
This is Tony Moray. I'm an estate planning lawyer who drafts living trusts and wills. Since the election, I've been hearing from my clients, many of them fellow WCPT listeners. And we all wonder, how did this happen and what can we do? The how is, of course, very complicated. My thoughts as regard to what we can do is simple but important. We need to take extra care of those we love. Having an estate plan using either a living trust or will can provide comfort in uncertain times like these. When the progressive values we hold dear are under attack, I feel we must make sure that our personal lives are secure and then work out from there. I've been drafting estate plans for my clients for over